Speaker of the day.
I hope to be touching on quite a lot of the stuff that's been talked about already. I haven't done this for a while. I've been out the circuit for a couple of years, been doing a lot of this, but I was involved in OER 10 from the beginning and have been sort of in the community. But I think what I'm going to talk about today and the work that we're going to show is really sort of less about me being an OER producer and an open educator and an open educational practice, and trying to look at how we can sort of democratise that a bit more, get more involvement from the students as content producers as well, and awareness of open education, rather than just having students being aware of open education and using content and in that way, but actually having a sort of a perspective on what it's like to be an open practitioner. I'm from the University Arts London, so I look after the digital learning for three other colleges: Chelsea College of Art, Camberwell and Wimbledon College of Arts. We've also got three other colleges, which is St Martin's, London College of Fashion and London College of Communication. Okay, so what we've been going through over the last year or so, anyone knows Ben Terrett, he basically redesigned the whole gov.org website, so he totally re-looked at the way the government does digital. So we got him in as a governor, which is a good move. So sitting down and having conversations with him and sort of planning sort of digital strategies and digital transformation was obviously really useful. I won't read that quote out, but that's basically I find that really useful in terms of just prompting perspectives on digital transformation. And one of the things that we came up with for a sort of focus group, a think tank if you like, at UAL was this distinction between teaching digital and teaching digitally. So I'm mostly going to be talking about teaching digital. So in art school, and obviously happening a lot more, is that students obviously need to learn how to use digital. And that can be digital screen-based technology, but also is moving more into the sort of making technologies as well now. Teaching digitally is this stuff, is using technology to deliver learning and teaching. In terms of digital transformation and looking at how we do stuff at the moment, obviously the traditional art school is IT rooms, screen-based rooms. It's been that way for quite a long time. Mostly screen-based technologies, video, AV, photography, a little bit of fabrication like laser cutting. So it's been like that for a long time. And the sort of delivery of teaching digital has been sort of separated from the academic side of the course, which is kind of a bit odd. So what we thought would be a good approach would be to look at the industries. Obviously what's happening outside in the world wasn't necessarily being reflected in what's going on within the university and the art school. So if anyone does not know the TechNation report, I recommend going to the TechNation website and downloading the latest report, actually 2017. What's quite interesting here is that obviously the current industries are being transformed by digital, and our awareness of that is really important. But we've also got lots of new industries coming in that is going to totally transform what we do. Can't see that, but that's basically saying digital tech jobs are, there's twice as amount of digital jobs starting to appear in the market. And tech collaboration. That's obviously going on at the moment. There's what they're saying is that, again, here is that the UK is the biggest place for meetups. So that's effectively open education. You've got industry coming together and sharing how they do stuff. I've sort of listed these problems again, I haven't got time to go through them all, but they're really problems that I associate with open education. Lone wolf. Very few of us within the University Arts London that are trying to push the open agenda, but it's really difficult. So yeah, I kind of see these as the sort of blockers, and the biggest blocker I wanted to look at was this public, just making it a bit more accessible, the whole open education thing. So we said, well, let's make it as open as possible. So we started to do meetups. And this was our first big event a couple of years ago, where we got industry in and we got the maker spaces to come in and but basically have that more open verbal dialogue rather than trying to do everything online. There's nothing better than sort of getting together and pointing at things and showing each other face to face. So for me, this was like, I could see there was an energy there that I've never had before within open education. So maybe, I'm not sure whether it's familiar with you, but I was working in the centre quite a lot, so I did not have a cohort of students that I could say, you lot are going to do this. So I think that's a big problem in terms of how we obviously engage with the student body if you don't run a course. So I use these meetups as an opportunity just to do a shout out to say, anyone that's interested in physical computing, come along and we'll just get round the table and have a conversation. Anyone that's interested in artificial intelligence, let's just meet up and have a conversation about that. So all very voluntary, cross-disciplinary, cross-course, cross-college meetups. And the thing with that, it started then to build up a confidence within that small group to have the ability then to do a more sort of in-house tested, open engagement with the rest of the students and the rest of the colleges. So what we did was identify certain experts that we saw were experts. We actually are experts because we've got virtual reality students that know virtual reality. And we sort of worked with them in this very sort of open meetup style. And we had over 400 other staff and students that came in and just engaged in this sort of face-to-face conversation. From that, we formed a digital maker collective. So at that point, we had about sort of 60 sort of engaged staff and students, again, all voluntary, with another 300 interested. So we started to formalise it in more of a sort of collective. And then we did our first external event. Again, this was taking the staff and students out of the colleges, out of their comfort zone. And for the first time, they were engaging with public at the Mozilla festival. And again, that was a huge learning curve for the students in terms of that public engagement. Rather than producing a piece of work and sticking it out into the world, they were actually interfacing with the piece of work. They were interfacing with the public and they were answering questions. So from this journey, we then got invited to be part of the Tate Exchange, which is Tate Modern. So this was like the whole of the 5th floor of Tate Modern. We were going to take over for 4 days. Now that was a huge daunting task. And a year ago, there was no way we could have done that. But we built up the momentum that I felt the confidence within the sort of staff and students to be able to go into the public realm and talk about technologies and art and design was there. Wasn't quite there, but there was definitely a possibility of doing that. And just going back to the invite to be part of Tate Exchange, that all came from 3 years before, when I was sitting in the Chelsea College of Art canteen and the head of digital learning was just popped over to the university, and she said, "You're Chris Follows?" I said, "Yeah, I've been looking at your stuff on Process Arts, and I really like it. Can we do some work together?" So it's really nice that that came out of open education. The actual invite to be part of this came out of sharing stuff online. So we started to plan the Tate Exchange again. So this was really fundamental in terms of the on-offline. So students and staff were then starting to use new tools about collaborative practice. So they were starting to think about communicating as a collective online and keeping that conversation going and that planning. So there was a sort of natural progression into that sort of world. Without saying go online and collaborate, there was a reason to collaborate online across these different groups. So these were the 4 dates we did at Tate Exchange. We did this sort of school class photo, which was quite nice. So we had about 50, 60 in each session. Again, all voluntary, all came together for that point. So it really grew in terms of confidence. You can't really see it here, but if you look on the online slides, 70% female. So, you know, I think art school was a great environment for getting technology sort of more sort of accessible for many people. Can't see anything. Anyway, that's a really lovely picture of the of the floor. And they're doing virtual reality. There's a little kid there that's been dragged back by the mum. Come back to reality. So I think for me, that's why I titled this Virtually Real, is this combination of open education in terms of, you know, the virtual side, but marrying that up with the real world and the sort of real world interactions. 2,000 people, you know, over the 4 dates, over 2,000 people were interfacing with the public, with the students and the staff, on the floor. I've got a few quotes here. So they saw the space as an incubator for ideas and practice. So it was like it was a whole day of just trying stuff out. It wasn't finished pieces of work. They were going in, it was very studio-like, so it was very open for experimentation. And what they found was a real success was this evolution of, we had 2-week cycle, so we did event 2 weeks and then we did another event. And the idea was that the public can come back and engage as well. There was an opportunity to obviously have useful conversations, but also within, even though we were outside the art school, there was conversations and it was starting to transform the way we communicated as a university with lots of different colleges within. And there was this feeling that it's starting to advance our sort of understanding of technologies. Yeah, so again, just learning how to sort of involve the public. Because I think that's a real sort of learning curve when there's one thing doing stuff online, but doing stuff where you're actually interfacing with the public is a different story. And for me, that's the strongest thing that came out of the students' response, was that they suddenly were aware of a public. Challenge their ideas, locate in their current practice. You can't see that one either, but there's loads of school children here, so there was school collaboration, so we're sort of collaborating across industry sectors and school, and working with schools as well. But also internationally, we're working with artists from Russia. So this whole idea of the confidence started to grow within the group. There's Femi, who's an 11-year-old hacker, who came in and he stole the show. This is a big film crew behind him that were filming him, and he was amazing. And you know, there was lots of little stories like that of interfacing with, not interfacing, but connecting with people that they would never connect with, that our students would never connect with. And there he is, HackoFem. I all encourage you to go to hackofemo.com. He's an 11-year-old hacker, and he's a total star. He's off to India in a month's time to do some technology stuff over there. So in terms of open education, he's an 11-year-old. He did the best review blog of the events that I've seen ever. Where he just talked about his involvement in Tate Exchange and been getting out of school for the day, because he had to write to the school to say, can he come out of school to do this? Okay, almost finished. So, 1 minute. 1 minute to do what next. So again, I won't go through all this, but what it has done has opened up. We've done all that, and that's been amazing. So we've got a fantastic engagement and interest. So that's now enabling us to start to think about some exciting projects, starting to think about its relationship to what we're doing, its relationship to the curriculum, taking more experimental approaches to how we teach digitally. So we're looking at immersive environments, and we're creating an AI art student at the moment, which will be quite interesting. This is all in collaboration with the collective, so getting the students to participate in the development of that. Obviously, in terms of digital literacies and confidence, it's done that job. That wasn't our direct thing that we wanted to achieve, but it's done it in a sort of indirect way. Engagement with galleries, being critical about the technologies. There was a lot of that going on the floor. We had a symposium area where we looked at that. And obviously open practice, that was, for me, was one of the biggest things. It sort of made open practice real, and did that for 150 staff and students without saying go and do open education. I think there's lots of other things for us to think about in terms of enterprise and the sort of student talent. And we're also doing this big European project now, which is around open design and manufacturing. So that's working with makerspaces and manufacturers to look at open design. And there you go. That was a quick run through.
What a great series of papers about how openness reaches out into communities in different ways and also reaches back in again. Questions for Chris? Too many?
I'm not fluent in English, but I will try.
Yeah.
Me gustaría que she wants to talk a little bit more about, because she thinks that the future for open education is about making objects that can be printed, so it's like going back to be able to touch what you develop.
Yeah.
So what is your perspective about it? Because she thinks it's kind of heading to the future.
Yeah, well that's really what it was about. So the whole event was about that sort of transition from screen-based working with technology to a more physical. So we had, we had all the virtual reality, all the mixed reality, the HoloLens, 3D printing, physical computing, Arduinos, Raspberry Pi. All this stuff was on the floor. They were exploring it, experimenting with it, but also they were being critical about it as well. So they were saying, well, what is virtual reality going to do in the future? How can we use it for good? How can we use it to change things? So it's great to see all those conversations with the public, that happening with the public.
Yeah.
What kind of discussions were happening about patenting, copywriting, licensing, all these wonderful things that were being created? Or are they all just available for other people to copy?
Yeah, I think in terms of in terms of resources, so we're now working with the students to develop. So the first thing was to do that, and then the second thing was to say, well, we've got these students that know this. So we start to employ those students through our Arts Temps agency, and so we can get them to start to develop resources, and all those resources will be open educational resources. The good thing about the Tate Exchange is that from the start that they took on a Creative Commons license for the whole of the 50 associates that were involved in that. So we were one of 50 associates that were programming activities on that floor.
I have a question about, you mentioned competence, which I think is such an important component of the work that you're doing and all the presentations today and enabling that competence in students. Did you measure that in some way, or is that observed competence that you saw within all of these wonderful activities, or did you interview the students to learn more about what they got out of that experience?
Yeah, I think that's part of, I mean, literally, 2 weeks ago was our last of the 4 events. So we are just entering that evaluation phase at the moment. So we're going to do a symposium where we reflect on it all next month. But also, I've already got a lot of those quotes were from feedback that we asked from staff and students. But it was that visible. From the first event we did, and then the second one, you could see a transformation. There was different people. There was a main core of people that were sort of holding it together, of staff and students, and then we had other waves of people coming in. We invited curriculum. We invited the sort of formal courses to come in and do stuff as well. You have to remember this was a sort of student-led, cross-disciplinary thing. So it kind of flipped it in a way. So we were saying, actually, course staff, academics, do you want to come in and get involved in this? But you could see it over the 4 events. You could, they were articulating it as well. The students were saying, what a journey they've been on over those 4 dates.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm sure all of the speakers in this session would be happy for you to follow them over.